So the vowels in Spanish are different than how they are in English. The names of the letters in Spanish and the way we pronounce them are very different. So A is actually pronounced as A. Think about the words Adam or apple. Now, English is a really funny language because the same letter, the same vowel could be pronounced like in 5 different ways, depending on the word. And you somehow instinctively know how to say that because you just know, right? But as somebody who had to study English in school, I can tell you that it's very confusing when E and A kind of make interchangeable sounds. So in Spanish, that doesn't really happen. Every time you see the letter A, make an A sound. Adam, apple, ah. Next is B. B and V are interchangeable in the sense that 20, for example, which is the word for 20, and it's on the 20 peso bill. It's 20 is spelled with a V, but people, when they say them, any random person you might point out in the street and talk with, they will alternate between saying B and V, myself included. I could say the word 20 peso bill like 5 times during a day, and I would say it with a B over the V, 20 or 20. Same thing as viento, ventana, ven, vente. So B and V are kind of interchangeable. It's really hard to know how to spell the word, so it doesn't really matter for you. At this stage of your learning journey, unless you're gonna work here in Mexico and write emails, work emails in Spanish, doesn't matter. So B and V are kind of interchangeable. Just get used to it. That's the best advice I can give for the first year or two. Next is C. C would make a sound like either casa or cerveza. So it can make a K or a C sound. And again, you wouldn't really know. That comes with time and familiarity. Casa, cerveza. D is the same thing. Dan, dedo, decidir, dar, right? E is another vowel that makes S sound. Like elephant, echo, elephant, Eduardo. Try saying those words out loud. Say Eduardo 3 times in a row, and then say Adam, Adam 3 times in a row. You will notice how your mouth moves differently. So your tongue goes up, your tongue goes down, your mouth stretches wider. So literally every time you learn a new word and you see it spelled with an E, you're gonna make an Eduardo sound. Next is F. F is the same thing. Derives its sound from either an I or an O or a U or an A that's before it, right? Fi, fa, fo, fe. Next is G, G like golf, and that one would make also 2 sounds. One is like gato, so it's a G sound. Guerrero, for example, the state of Acapulco, that's with a G. Or it would make a G sound, like Jorge, right? If you notice the name Jorge spelled with a J, then with a G. Again, you wouldn't know, but this is how it works. Next, we've got H. H is typically silent in Spanish in Mexico. We tend to pronounce the vowel that comes immediately after. So you'll notice that any word that starts with an H would typically have an E, an I, or an O, or a U, any one of the vowels right ahead of it, right after it. So you typically, native speakers tend to just silence the H and just say the vowel. So hotel, Hector, hacienda, hacer. You can't really hear it. It's not hacer. It's hacer. Okay. So again, doesn't matter. You just typically like say just the vowel stronger than you would the H. For example, the word yellow, ice. You don't say halo or halo. You say yellow, ice. Next, we have the letter I like in India. So again, it's a vowel, makes the same sound. Ir, Inés, Iglesia, Ignacio. Next, we have J like Jeep. Again, that makes a J sound. It's never gonna do a J sound, not like a Jeep in English. It's gonna make a J sound, like Jorge, Juan, Jesus, Jacarandas, right? That J sound. If you can't say a J sound, then make it an H sound. Jesus, Juan, Jorge, right? That's perfectly acceptable fix until you feel confident enough in Spanish. Then you can work on your accent, rolling your R's, saying your J's, etc., etc. Next, we have the letter K. K is like kilo, very straightforward. L is the same. Lima, limon, Luis. M is the same. Madre, magnesio, mirar. N is the same thing. Nancy, nopal. O is the same thing. Órale, ojalá. P is the same. Pedro, pensar, pienso. Q is not a letter we use that much. It's always paired with a vowel, and the best examples are queso, quesadilla, por qué, cuál, K. So Q kind of takes to make a K sound, either Q or K, depends if it has a U or an A afterwards. And the best way to remember that is queso and quesadilla and K, por qué, okay? Next, we have R. R is very straightforward. Roberto, Ruben, Rihanna, regresar. Again, depending on the vowel afterwards. S is the same thing. Sierras, Potosí, salir. T is the same thing. Tijuana, Tito, teléfono, traer. U is called uva in Spanish, and it makes the exact same sound. Ubicar, Uber, mover, what else? Can't recall. There's not a lot of words that use that. K, for example. Next is V, V like Victor. So again, V and V make an interchangeable sound. You can always pronounce a word with a V. If you see it spelled that way, it's very good. Everybody will understand you. Very straightforward. Next is W. The W is called doble U. So we typically use it for whiskey, Walmart, or like the local senoras pronounce it, Walmart. That's an inside joke. Anyways, doble U is W, and Walmart and whiskey are the most common words you're going to see that with in Spanish. X is, again, it's called X. That's the name of the letter. In English, we call it X. In Spanish, the name of the letter is X. The best examples are Dos X, the beer, literally two X's. We have the OXO, OXO, O-X-X-O, OXO, and X-ray, Rayos X. So if you need an X-ray, all you have to do is say Rayos X. Next, we have the Y. Y is very straightforward, Yasmin. Z is called Zeta. Not many words with Z, really. And then Spanish has two more letters that we don't have in English. So the first one is the double L. So lluvia, Vallarta, llevar, llamar. Double L produces the Y sound. So every time you see a word, some of the common verbs are spelled with double L. Llevar, to take away or carry. Llegar, to arrive. Llamar is to call. So you just make a Y sound. And the last final letter is the Enya. That is the N with the wiggly line on top. This one is making a Nya sound. It's an N, but not a Nancy or next, not a really hard sound. It's a softer sound. Nya, niño, niña, niños. We all know those words. So again, that N would derive the sound from the vowel that comes afterwards. I, O, A, U. Nin, sorry. Niño, niña, año, uña, niña. Okay? Baño, bañar, soñar. All right, this is all you need to know about the letters. Listen to this letter, to this lesson as many times as needed. It'll take a little bit of time, like a few weeks or even a few months for retention. I understand you learn a new language, it takes time, it's a learning curve. Everything is fine, no pressure. Don't pressure yourself. You're doing good. You're on the right track. You're fine as you are. You are progressing. All good. Okay? And as always, the most important piece of the puzzle is to talk to people. If you're only doing books and apps, it's not good. You have to talk to live human beings because our brains engage in conversation, and that's how we take ownership of information. Okay? Good luck. You're doing fine.